Hey everyone, I am having a great week so far. The creative juices have been flowing. I hope you guys are having a good week too. So I wanted to jump on and just make a really quick tutorial on an evergreen arrangement in a galvanized container. These can be used for indoor, outdoor decor. They're great for gifts. They're very inexpensive and very easy to make. So I just want to demystify anybody's hesitations around doing floral arrangement because it's a very forgiving process. If something goes in and you don't like it, you pull it out. You cut it too short, there's a pick to make it longer. There's a million different tricks on how to make this kind of a foolproof process. Plus it's enjoyable. So one thing that shows just my obsessive passion for what I do is I have been waiting for the perfect Lazy Susan to do my floral arrangement on, and I found it this week at HomeSense. And I love her. She's beautiful. So we're gonna get started, and the tools that I use are, we're gonna be using our floral foam block. We're gonna be using glue, which for me, I use a glue pan. I don't use a glue gun. It's much easier to design with. So, all right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're going to get our foam block secured in our container. So we want it to come up just a little bit before the edge. So I'm gonna cut this just using a butter knife. And I would love to tell you that I'm sorry that my workstation is so messy, but I actually cleaned it and it really doesn't get much better than this. So I'm gonna dip my foam block in the glue pan. I'm gonna kind of shake off some of the excess, and then I'm gonna put it right in and I'm gonna hold it. So as you can see, it doesn't need to fill up the entire container. It just needs to be large enough that we can do all of our arranging in. It's okay to have stuff on the sides. If you want to add a little bit of extra security to it, you could just take the excess from that block and just kind of stuff them in. They don't need to reach the bottom or anything. It's just to keep the center block from moving, which once the glue dries, it's going to anyway. One money-saving tip that I did want to share with you is that when you're picking out florals, always try and find a bush. They're usually pretty inexpensive, and even if you're looking at this and you say, okay, I like some of the greens because some of these are beautiful. There's like beautiful faux cedar and juniper, but then for what we're doing, this contains these little gold pieces, and although I like them, they're probably meant for a different project. So for this, I'm going to be pulling this apart and I'm going to separate the gold pieces for another time. So now all my greens have been separated, so I'm gonna find a starting point, which usually for me is in the middle. And what I like to do is I like to make that my highest point. With a lot of these faux florals, everything is very malleable. So here's an example. I have a piece with the gold on it, and I'm just gonna pull it off using my muscles. And then when those fail, I'll flip it off. So I've removed that. And now I'm gonna be spreading these out because these are all wired and I wanna get the most bang for my buck. So I wanna make these greens go as far as possible. So for me, I usually I do the center, then I do the front and the sides. And what I'm doing right now is I'm setting the parameters of how big I want this arrangement to be. Oh my gosh, I'm like turning this. Hello, Lazy Susan, this is your job. Okay. All right, the girl's on the clock now. So now I'm just turning her just because I can. All right, so now that So as I'm putting these in staggered, I am trying to break up different textures. So I want to put like some cedar in one place, maybe focus some pine on another, and start to look for where the big gaps are. As I'm doing it, I'm kind of fluffing and fanning things out to make sure that I'm getting the most coverage, like so. I think this craft is a great girls' night activity because it's not expensive. Again, it's not challenging really, and it's enjoyable. At least for me it is. So now that I've pretty much covered the greenery, not completely, but I have a good foundation here, I'm gonna start working on some of the detailed accents that are gonna really make this piece pop. So I'm gonna be using these red berries from Hobby Lobby. And I wanna really put these in places that are strategic and that are really gonna add a lot to my arrangement. Want something right in the middle. I always like when things kind of waterfall down a little bit. Again, see how like malleable, those things are not gonna break on you. If I have a piece that's short, like the stem is short, I'm just gonna strategically place it so it's like right on the edge. But again, it gives me the impact that I'm looking for. And if I see any bald spots while I'm going around, add to it. And then also in this bush came these little artificial twigs, and I actually love these. I would not throw these away. I think that especially when you're looking for something more natural or rustic for the holiday season, these are perfect. If you went to Michael's, you'd actually have to pay for these separate. So the fact that these are just included in these bushes is great. All right. Now we're gonna move into some like holly and pine cones and some different textured leaves. And standing alone, you might think this doesn't look very wintry. It's more of a fern. But when you see it come together with all of the things that are evergreen, you'll see that it adds a nice pop of texture to your design. So just like the berries, I'm gonna use my pine cones strategically. I'm gonna place them in front. Place some up high. What do you think? Like, we've only been doing this for a few minutes and we're pretty close to done. You want to make sure that you're using your accents throughout. I always say that any point of view of your arrangement, you should kind of have like the best seat in the house. Sometimes it's appropriate to do a three-sided arrangement if it's up against a wall and it's not going to be moved, like say it's in an alcove. However, if you're putting this on your kitchen island or on a table, you don't want to have a bad side. No one wants to have a bad side. All right, now I am seeing that the back of this is a little bit neglected with the greens on the lower end of it. Back. Looking here, if I say like what's missing, definitely red. So we're gonna go through and just kind of take an inventory of how do we make this all look very consistent. Now for this side, I need a tall berry. And like I was saying before, we have picks. So what I would do is I would take a pick, which looks like this, and I would wire it right to it. Then, pardon my reach, we use what's called floral foam. And floral foam is just it's a tacky tape. It's not like a tape, but what you do is you hold it tight, you wrap it around, and then one, it hides the mechanics, but two, it also makes sure that your piece is gonna stay in place. All right, so we've got our high berry that we needed for the back. kind of a large Larry. She's taken up a lot of space, so that's good. And now I'm just going through scraps. There's a lot of things that you don't want to hold on to too many things and then have a buildup of materials that really aren't workable. But you also want to think, are there little places where some of these things should get tucked in? And for this arrangement, definitely. So if you were to make this at home, I have made it with 2 evergreen bushes. I'd say probably 3 stems of berries, and then another bush that had some pine cones and some different greenery. So if you were gonna quote what this cost, maybe like $20. But I think what you get for it, it's definitely well worth it. You make it exactly the way you want it. And if you were given this as a gift, one, people are gonna think you're the bee's knees because it's so thoughtful. But also I think it's something that you can be proud of, and that this is something that translates to pretty much everybody in the winter. This is the style that most people are into, whether they want it for inside or outside of their home. All right, so I'm feeling like the front is just lacking a little bit of pizzazz. I'm going to take one of these ferns and plug it right on in and give it some center stage action. I'm going to bend it down a little bit. Susan's not going to want to work here because I am not properly utilizing her. I'm going to clip this piece because it is irking me. It's too long. I'm going to clip it. I'm still going to use it in the same spot, but it was just way too long for that space and it was bothering me. So my rule of thumb is if you put something in and it automatically is bothering you, that's probably not going to change. So you want to deal with it in the moment so you can move on and not have to worry anymore about it. There we go. Got this other side. All right, what do you think? So we've got berries. Let's do one more berry in the front. It's because it matches our galvanized container. Very beautiful. We'll drape them down in the front as well, so we're not covering, the sign that says that the reindeers, we're feeding them for 15 cents. That's cool. All right, go around. As I'm doing my final check over, I am seeing a few places where, we need some consistency around the pops of color. I'm gonna put some more berries here. Here we need a tall green. All right, and here we go. There are a few final steps to polish your arrangement. The first one is I use Spanish moss. Sometimes I use natural green moss. And what I'm going to do, this stuff is so messy, is I'm going to go through and I'm going to tuck it along the sides of the container. I don't necessarily want it hanging out. If it shows a little, that's okay. But really what I don't want it to show is the block or anywhere that the glue is and the stems are, how they're into the foam. Go around, hiding those mechanics so people say, how the heck did you do it? And you're like, I can't tell you. It's all hidden in the moss. Sorry, Susan. Okay. And then usually I like to just kind of go right in through the top and push things right down on the block and do it that way. And then the very final step is we're going to blow dry this. And what blow drying it does is it just gets off like any of the little hairs that could be, yeah, it's like all over me. Any of the little glue hairs that could be hanging on to things, they'll either go right to it, they'll like melt right to it, which is helpful, or you can just pull them off as you go. When you're working with greenery that's somewhat plastic, which some of this is, you don't want to use it too long. If you left it on like the pine too long, it's actually going to cause the needles to curl. So you want to just kind of like keep it moving. Like when you're getting a blowout, like you don't want it focused in one spot because it's going to burn. All right, so let's do that final step. So even with editing and everything, this took about 20 minutes, which meant if I was just doing it on my own solo, it probably would have taken about 10 minutes. So this really is something, it's a very, very approachable project. It's very versatile, and I think you'd enjoy doing it. So I'd love to know if you're willing to try it, and if so, I would love to see a picture. And if there's anything else you're looking for assistance for this holiday season, please don't hesitate to ask. I am here for you. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.